shows are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Welcome to the Edventures in Tech podcast, talking the latest tips and trends in educational technology to innovate and engage your students. Here are your hosts, Andrew and Dan.
Back and better than ever at NYSCATE. This is episode 50 of the Adventures in Tech podcast. My name is Andrew.
And I'm Dan.
And we have some special guests. We're excited you've joined us on this venture. Kicking off NYSCATE 2023 with a bang, literally a bang. We are excited. We have, of course, Art Schouten here, our Director of Tech.
What's going on, guys? Well, glad to be back at NYSCATE for another year.
And, of course, the one, the only, the illustrious Paul Rubeo.
Can I bottle that?
I'll send you the clip.
And show that to my wife when I get home and just play that for her?
Just replay it on
play
the
it
podcast.
as you walk in the door. Here we go.
Yeah,
Set it up to Alexa, so every time you walk in, it announces that you have arrived.
No, she'd figure out a way to.
Yeah, that
A makey can go off with that as anytime you enter the door.
That's true.
Have a makey do that.
Let me recover. My wife is my biggest advocate and biggest supporter, and it's true. Just like Jimmy Carter said about Rosalind, who passed away.
Yes. Yep.
Anyway, good to be here with you guys.
Yes, we are back. NYSCATE 2023. The exhibit floor has officially opened. The
exhibit Blitz.
Yes. Yeah. Well, all right, Dan. Pump the brakes. Just wait a second. We'll get there. But it is a day later, because typically we've always launched our initial welcome to NYSCATE 2023 with all the information, and there's been the Bills game on in the background. But unfortunately, this year they did not start the exhibit hall until Monday, which in turn, though, I think really increased participation in the sessions that everybody's been attending. So, all right, let's start. Go ahead, Dan. First thoughts, NYSCATE 2023. Go ahead.
It's been a great conference so far. I can definitely see there's a running theme this year, which everything is AI, down from the keynote speakers to all the different sessions. We ran a session on AI yesterday that was very well received. But it's very interesting because we were talking with people when we were at this conference last year. AI wasn't even a thought in anybody's mind. And now it's just everything. Everything is dealing with the AI and how it can be, its impact on education and how it's going to transform or evolve or everything there. And it's funny what's happened. I mean, maybe at this point we can talk about what's happened in that year, from the initial thing of ChatGPT to the fear and loathing in education, right? Can we go to that title where all of a sudden everyone's like, they're going to cheat.
Right.
And now it's like, oh my gosh, it's going to change the dynamics of the learning environment forever.
I happen to be sitting in a workshop today, a corporate focus group, and we were talking about some of the biggest changes in education and technology over the past several years. Social media, one-to-one. Now talking about AI and talking about these huge evolutions. And social media came, it was a slow growth. We tried to stay away from it for a very long time. It took years for us to build up to it. One-to-one, a lot of us are still building up to it. It's not like common everywhere. AI, over the past 10 months, we went from we need to block this to here's 12 awesome tools on how to use it within your classroom.
Right.
All within a very short time frame. And we were discussing how amazing it is that that evolutionary curve has been so quick compared to past practice.
Mm-hmm. I think somebody had said something or tweeted X'd out, whatever it's called, tweet X, I don't know, that the biggest fear was that AI was going to replace teachers. That was the biggest fear at first, especially those humanity and ELA teachers. However, we know that's not going to be a reality. It can't replace teachers, but you really have to make sure you are preparing your students to be able to use AI when they get out of their school careers and post-secondary and everything, because otherwise they are going to be left behind. It's as simple as that.
And we'll talk more about it as we go forward, but we had someone from Microsoft last night for the keynote and talking about how AI is integrated into all of their processes and what it's doing, and it's completely mind-blowing. We can touch base on that maybe a little later. And we had another keynote this morning, which kind of ended with a quote that kind of threw me, but I'm going to throw this quote out here to everyone. We can talk about it, because they did say that, talking about teachers being replaced, one of their quotes were, teachers will not be replaced by AI, but they will be replaced by teachers that know how to use AI.
Fantastic quote.
And I thought that was a very interesting quote on a variety of levels. So I'm throwing that out to our group right now to kick off NYSCATE with a bang. Maybe we can talk about that for a bit.
Well, that, I think, is a mantra that everybody has to start to adapt and change. Just as we haven't had AI in a year ago today, we were not even talking about AI. It had nothing. It wasn't even on the landscape of education. But if we don't evolve, if we don't pivot, and we don't figure out how to use this to our best resources to equip our students, to prepare them of how to use AI and grow up in an AI world, then we are going to be left behind. Those teachers will be left behind because there's going to be a missing facet that they cannot, just not, I'm trying to think of the exact word, not replace, replicate. You need to be able to adapt to this and incorporate it in your own methodologies and make sure you're preparing your students.
Yeah, so it's not a new conversation, but it is definitely a powerful tool. We've been talking about this for a long time, since way back. See the technology as a powerful tool. What are your learning objectives? What do you really want for your students? And what'll get you there? And I think it's interesting how quickly the conversation changed with this particular subject. That's an indicator that it's not a fad. It's an evolutionary change, and I'm optimistic about that because I think that it'll be easier to have the deeper conversations. What struck me about his presentation, it really resonated with me. He said, I'm a good example of this. When I was growing up, I loved to tinker with things. I loved to take things apart. I rebuilt engines. But calculus, forget it. I couldn't do it. I didn't see myself as understanding math. This opens up the possibility for students, for children to figure out, and really lean into what they're good at and then learn how to use those tools. We can teach them how to use those tools to really excel. And it's undeniable. Mm-hmm. So that's what makes it interesting. And I think it's going to be different. I mean, all of us at the table have been doing this work for a long time. And I think it's going to change the nature of our work going forward, for sure.
Well, Dan, I don't know if you had talked about it or not recently. I know we've had this conversation, but you recently had a situation with a script that you were trying to put into Google Sheets.
Yes.
And
that was my brainchild.
That was.
I know you were ChatGPTing some of it. Went to a particular student who we work with quite often, who is amazing when it comes to coding and programming. And he too turned and said, hey, let me take a look here. Went over to ChatGPT, started asking questions, coming back, looking at the script, going back and forth, back and forth. Here's a 17-year-old kid who was able to figure this all out with the assistance of an AI.
And the thing about that was we were working on something. Yes, it was Andrew's idea. He's like, see it. It was in Google Sheets to convert something and do something with the information being put in. So I went into ChatGPT and asked for a specific script, and it gave me a script. I put it in. It wasn't working. I had a conversation with it, but my level of coding is not very high. So I was having the conversation, and it was telling me things, and I asked it to explain it in different ways, but I couldn't get it. And I went to the particular student who I knew had a better understanding of the whole thing, and he looked at my script, he goes, and he runs it, he goes, it looks okay, it's not working, but he was able to interact with the AI in a different way that I could, and he put it together, and now it works.
Yeah, he understood that language model very quickly.
Well, again, it's a co-teacher. It's I think teachers are waking up quickly to see it as, oh, this is something that can help me. Pretty soon it'll be someone that can help me. But that's the remarkable thing. It's like I always struggled with doing these pieces that took me a long time. Now there's something that can help me do that, so I can focus my attention on and learn to do better at other aspects of my work. And with young people now, we need to do that.
And I think that's been the big change over the year. I mean, our presentation yesterday, Reimagining Learning with AI, was about that same thing, that your AI is your co-teacher. Your AI is your brainstorming. Your AI is your partner that can allow you to create experiences for students that are tailored directly to the students that you're teaching. We have someone trying to sneak by us now.
He's not even going to say hello.
We'll see him later, though.
He's making a cameo. Put him on the mic. John Redeker, Red Tech guy.
Hey guys, have fun. We'll catch up later.
You got
NYSCATE
it.
23.
Yeah, that's it. He's out.
But, you know, I forgot where I was going, but
Co-teacher.
It's that co-teacher, and you know we still see that with teachers. It's like they're having the conversations like we need to learn about AI, we need to learn about teaching with AI, we need to learn how to incorporate it, and I think they have to go back and just reflect on like we need to go back and think about instruction, and we need to go think about instructional design of how we can create dynamic learning environments that, you know, hit upon the tenets of UDL and can reach every learner. If we think about that, then we can use the AI tools to help that become a reality, because no one can do it on their own. And this may be controversial to some of our listeners, but no one can go out to Teachers Pay Teachers and download something off the internet that's going to be appropriate for the students that are sitting in front of them. That's created for something that has no relevance to the interactions you need with your students. So in a way, that's busy work. Whereas you can use the AI generators, the chatbots, the image generators to work and detail and personalize learning for your students. So it's not just about how students are using it, how are we going to use the AI to make better instructional environments for our students? And I think all the sessions here, the keynotes, everything has been focusing on that exact point.
I think NYSCATE really hit the nail on the head with actually making Mission Possible the theme this year, because adapting to AI is your next mission, and it is possible. You have to grow with it. You know, when you just said about that whole teacher pay teachers thing, here's a question. Will AI be the demise of teacher pay teacher?
No.
You think it'll still exist?
I think it'll still exist in some way, but I think as more people, again, like going back to that quote, teachers that know how to use AI are going to have. I'm not going to say that. I'm not even going to go to like they're going to have better test scores, because that's not really a focus of what we should be talking about when we're using these tools and these educate. We need to meet students where they're at and get them to where they need to be, and provide the appropriate scaffolds. So the teachers that know how to use the AI are going to build rapport with their students. They're going to have more dynamic learning environment. They're going to have more engagement, and they're going to have more just self-satisfaction out of everyone else. You know, kind of go through that. I kind of want to pivot a little bit, still on the same conversation, but that, you know, embracing AI and using AI does not mean turning your class digital and being everything through a computer screen. So I'm going to throw Paul on the spot, because he had a great presentation yesterday about connecting with nature and bringing all of those skills that we learn by experiencing things and bring that into the AI relevance of how that's together.
Thanks, Dan. The workshop was about proposing, well, we started off by talking about what happened during COVID, that students were pretty much removed from their environment. We were all removed from our environment. And what did we learn from that? They came back, and they're they're not comfortable. So what are we going to do about that? So what my partner and I, Irina Tully from Eduporium, are talking about is look at nature, look at eco-education. We're calling it eco-education, and use that connection to nature. It's so easy because it's all around us, and in one way or another, teachers have some connection to it, and learn through nature. Use your tech tools to explore nature. Use them. Use the probes. Use the technologies that you can record data and analyze data. But make the foundational piece your relationship with nature. I think it's an easy thing, but you got to just say we're going to get outside. We're going to take our tools outside, or we're going to talk about what we want to do. What we learn and what we want to do about that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's definitely, that was the piece yesterday. But if I may, this morning we did another workshop called the 3 H's: head, heart, and hands. That's not a new idea, but with all this talk about AI and how things are kind of changing with the way we teach, I think there's a need to talk about why we do what we do. Mm-hmm. And plenty of opportunities to be discussing what's the core purpose. For example, in a makerspace, you see a lot of head and hands. You see a lot of problem solving, a lot of creation. But where's the heart? What are they creating? Why are they creating it? What are the projects they want to do? And in Wappingers, there's some amazing things going on in the science and math area where there are the tech integrators or the science integrators are working on meaningful projects. So it's logical that we should spend our time talking about that and having a language for that. Head, heart, and hands.
And then using those tools that are out there, as we were talking about, the AI, to be that designer with you. Because,
Right.
I mean, we're all creative, but we can't think of everything. And we can't say, think of all possibilities or all accommodations, but using those tools, using those chatbots, using those different things, delving into the conversation, saying address this standard in this way for this learner to create this type of outcome with student choice, and start questioning it and probing down, and then taking those experiences and providing it for your students in a way that connects to each one of your students. That's one thing I think with the AI is we talk about individualized and personalized education, but you can't do it without help. And that help is not always there with you. So to have that AI co-pilot is pretty amazing.
Most of the greatest ideas ever were done as a team, as some kind of collaboration. AI helps that team develop more. It helps us ask the questions that we don't necessarily know that we're asking, or we know we have a question, we just can't figure it out. And the more we work with the AI, the more we bounce ideas off. And we do it all the time. It is natural for us to do.
And it's not new. We've been using AI for a long time. It's just now we have the language-based model that makes it.
I think that,
Correct.
and we have
That's the
greater
difference.
access to it.
Yeah,
like
for
now
sure.
we as regular people get to play with it and say, hey, do this for me, do that for me. It's been there, but now we get to manipulate it on a different level.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a paid aspect of it. And last night's keynote with the gentleman from Microsoft, actually, it was just mind-blowing how he was putting scheduling into it. And they talked about his son's college interviews and how well it prepared his son, because he traveled a lot, so he wasn't able to be there to prepare his son for the college interviews, but the bot was able to help him. It actually created the interviews, and it actually had that conversation, and it prepared him. I was just mind blown last night with Michael. It was enlightening to see what's coming too with 4.0. We're still at 3.5, right? 4.0 is coming, and I know everybody's seeing the news, and there's been a lot with OpenAI and their higher level CEO executive structure, but I think that's going to work itself out to see where that's going to go. But I'm excited for what's going to be coming, but we have to assist our colleagues and our educators who are not here, who do not get to immerse themselves in the conversations, about how do we help them utilize AI for what's best for them.
Well, one of the things from last night's presentation was the schedule builder.
Yeah,
that
awesome.
was
He was talking about what was it, elementary school?
Yeah, fourth grade.
And trying to develop an appropriate schedule that fit everything that they needed to fit in there. And they were able to do it in, a half hour, 45
with the
minutes?
constraints and everything.
Right. In a very short period of time, the school district figured that saved them over 10,000 man hours trying to do scheduling. And if you've ever done scheduling, it never goes well. It is a nightmare 24/7.
Yeah, I remember I've done scheduling. I did it for a summer school program. I helped do it, in the district. And it's a bear. Big charts on the wall, people's names, little cards you're moving around. It's like
It's or
crazy.
magnets or
it's crazy. And,
you get it. It's like a Sudoku puzzle, and you get to the very end, and you realize that one box is wrong, and you got to pull everything down and start again.
When I was listening to him, I was thinking it would really be good for regular educators, all of us, to hear that talk.
It was great.
Because I think hearing that talk opens us up to the introduction of what it is. I still think people don't know. They know from the news, this is what it is, it's
Right.
ChatGPT. No, listen to what the rest of the world, the tools that are being created, what the hospitals are doing in medicine. And then ask yourself a simple question: what do I need to do for my students? What should my classroom look like? What should my school look like? And the conversations that we need to have going forward are at the classroom level, the individual one-to-one teacher coaching level, and at the school level. Because these things will open up opportunities.
And the district level.
at the district level. Leadership, like, you can rearrange how you function. The tools that you have out there, how are we using those tools? So that's what I mean by really being a game changer for that conversation.
And you have school districts of a variety of different sizes, departments within those schools that are of different sizes and makeups. This helps those teachers that might not have a large team or a team at all. I mean, we have a lot of educators out there that are a department of one, or two. Something like this helps them build and develop that collaboration and ask those questions when they might not necessarily have somebody down the hall to go and have those conversations.
Let me just interject here because we're talking about the keynote last night, but we never said who the keynote was.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a poor delivery, but it's Dr. Michael Jabbour, and he is an expert in organizational transformation, and he works for Microsoft now. He was working for the New York City DOE for a while, as well, along with many other things, and he works with the AI specifically.
Yeah. And what it really comes down to is what's best for students. If it's going to make scheduling easier for the higher level admins and it's going to increase a student's STEAM time, let's say, that's what's best for students. So why would you not utilize it,
My other thing is, we have many teachers that have been in the field for quite a while. And, they have the same lesson plans and stuff. This is a great way for them to get an easy refresher. Take your lesson plan idea, throw it in and say, hey, listen, here's my idea, what else can I do? Or show me how to do X, Y, Z with this lesson plan, and kind of just start re-evolving what they've done.
And just, after being here, listening to the keynote last night, who's an expert, he knows AI. And so looking how it works, the things for teachers and listeners to get AI, your chatbots are not a Google search. Okay,
right.
So don't treat it like a Google search. You need to be very specific with your questions. You need to design it. You need to question back. You need to build it as a partner. It's not an input-output one thing. Like, I need a lesson on this, and it's going to create you exactly what you need. You have to give it parameters. You have to set guidelines. You have to have it ask you questions about it. That's one thing he pointed last night, is how when they were doing the scheduling, he empowered the AI bot to look at various constraints that I may have not thought of. And it brought out things that they did not think of that got them to address it.
Yeah, like the AI brought up 20 questions. Like, hey, I have questions for you.
Right. Which is a little scary, but it's there. So, and I also think that, for teachers and listeners, like, I'm sorry, you can't ignore it. It's not something you can put your head in the sand and do business as usual anymore, because it's embedded into everything with technology now. We look at that Microsoft thing, it's in all of their platforms. It's there. Do you know how to use it or do you not? And are we creating, it's going to be another digital divide. Who has access to it? I mean, the keynote this morning talking about, well, where are these models coming from? Well, most of the input is coming from Europe and America. So is there a bias in it? For sure.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of areas in the world and lots of cultures, lots of people that don't even have reliable internet service that put into the big pool of information that they're pulling from. So yeah, you have to keep that in mind, but then you have to realize that you need to be literate in a globalization of information and AI as it goes forward.
Right, and the thing is teaching the students how to use the resources better. It's like when we used to traditionally use Google, right? And we used to teach about proper keyword searches and stuff like that to get the content that we were looking for.
The Boolean.
But now,
the Boolean search.
And we used to have kids that would just went out there, they went to Wikipedia, they pulled whatever resource, copy, paste, boom, here's my assignment. They try to slide that past us. Now we do have kids going in there and saying, hey, write me an essay on XYZ. Boom, they just grab whatever is handed to them, copy, paste, drop it in. However, we're not teaching them to use those proper skills. Eventually we taught in Google, hey, ask for these words, do ands, do ors, develop your proper search to find the information you truly need. We need to teach the same skill set now with AI. Ask that question, ask a follow-up question, ask a third question. That's the skill set we need to bring along with this new change.
So I'm gonna pull rank here because I'm the oldest person sitting here.
Paul is the OG.
It doesn't sound like it, because I'm very youthful. My voice is youthful. But it occurs to me, I've actually watched the two people sitting across from me teach. I spent considerable amount of time in their classrooms watching them teach. And the one thing that was remarkable about their approach is that they treat their students with respect in terms of what they're capable to do. I watched Andrew work with first and second graders and giving them the room to analyze and make decisions and create and operate the technology. Dan, the same thing with his students in the middle school in social studies. I think that's going to be important. That's an important value for educators going forward, even more with this, because you have to believe that your students have
Capabilities.
Mm-hmm. And AI is going to require us to see our students of all levels and of all classifications as having capabilities. It's going to challenge us, but it's a beautiful challenge, because what I saw happen in those classrooms was amazing. And people was like, oh, this can't be done. Yes, it can be. I've seen it done. So it's interesting, the connection between that work and what's on the horizon. I think it'll mean more conversations, more support, more co-teaching, and more meaningful work. So yeah, absolutely.
One of the things, like building off of what you said, about capabilities of students and what's possible, there was something else that was brought up in the keynote this morning, and talking about how does AI work, and looking at the reasoning. Like, there's 3 types of reasoning that humans possess, and this said inductive reasoning, where we can go from specific to general and reason something out. And then you have, or the deductive reasoning, where we can go to general and specific in order to solve a problem, and abductive reasoning, which is your evidence-based, logical, observable to come out with an outcome. And they say AI is really, each reasoning complements each other, and humans have all these processes, but AI can't see the whole picture. It's just, it works with inductive reasoning. It's not capable of abductive reasoning. So we look at, like, how do we use AI for our students, or how do we use it for ourselves? We use it with reasoning. We use it with teaching those skills, using the skills that AI doesn't have, so you can evaluate what AI is putting out there, and you are the reason. You are the human component. You are the ethics. You are the things that are going to get an outcome. So you have to teach about content. You have to teach about skills. You have to teach about everything, so our students can do those inductive and deductive reasoning when they're working with any kind of information that they're trying to build synthesis of and generate an understanding. So I think, our teachers are struggling with, how do we approach it? We approach it through reasoning. We approach it through processes, and we approach it through learning. We approach it through developing skills, critical lens, collaboration, sharing ideas, building off of one another, and doing the types of things that AI just doesn't do. What they do say, it pretends it does it. Like, last night Michael's like, it hallucinates. These guys are like, they exaggerate, so it'll put up a good front and it'll fake it, but you can see really quickly where it's faking it.
So in that way, it's not new.
No.
It's a practice. That's what I meant by watching the two of you work. It's those skills as an educator that have been there forever. But this tool will make that work even richer. So I think educators will begin to see that and that's why the conversation has turned so quickly. So it's exciting. And I think it's going to be an interesting time.
Well, it's also one of those skill sets that we used to have with our students was, ask 2 before you ask me, right? Remember that old concept?
Yeah.
So when we were trying to encourage students to collaborate in the classroom,
right,
before they came to the teacher with a question, they had to ask 2 classmates. Well, now with AI, hey, ask your question, but then I want to see 2 follow-up questions.
Right.
What do you get out of that? Like, we can take the same concept now, and now we're just redeveloping it into a new thing. And how often do we used to sit there as college students, high school students ourselves, even now when we're looking at some of the stuff going, I don't understand what I'm reading right now. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get this concept. Now with AI, we can be sitting there looking at it and go, explain this to me a little differently. What does this mean? So students who might not necessarily interact in a classroom, who have questions that are going through an assignment, can grab that assignment, drop it in an AI piece and say, explain this to me in a different way.
Oh, exactly. And I in our session yesterday, we did that exact thing with ChatGPT. I put in a standard from Earth Science, and it was about the water cycle and the hydraulic cycle, and I said, can you please create a story to teach me about this standard and this process in a fun and engaging way for 9th grade students? And it created a whole story about aqua bubble, and it hooked me in.
It's because you asked it nicely. You said please.
I always say please. Skynet is coming. Let's not go there. But it created a story for me that was teaching it, and I could not come up with that story.
No.
And I asked it to change things and maybe even look at the characters and how they were, and it did it and created a story. And what was even cooler was I took that same story and I brought it into Conquer. We know we love Conquer here. Conquer is that formative assessment platform that's built on AI. Same people as Moat, which we have to find on the floor here, because I just got to keep continually thanking them for their products. But I put the standard in and the story, right? And it created, a whole reading comprehension formative assessment with like multiple choice, closed read, all these things based on the story, but tied the questions to the standards. So it's like, at what process was aqua at this point in the story? And it gave me a formative assessment and taught me more about the cycle in there. And that took me 8 minutes.
Well,
8 minutes.
There's the big thing.
And look how much I differentiated that. And how many different ways did I have, like looking UDLs, how many multiple ways of representation of information did I give there? Some notes, an analogy, a story, a formative assessment, all these different reflection points. It was done in multiple ways in 8 minutes of time. I couldn't do that in 8 hours, 80 hours.
So back to the original thing, will it replace teachers? No, it will make you better.
It's going to make you more efficient.
And then you'll ask yourself, okay, so what am I here for? A lot of my work was doing this, putting things together work. Well, let's lean into some other role. Let's bolster your other role as a mentor to the students you have. You're there for them for a reason, and they're going to need you more and more. So it will be an opportunity for teachers to get better at that domain, that whatever you want to call it, from whatever, just Danielson rubric. They're going to be able to develop those areas that they've never had time to do.
Imagine we're just putting in the rubric into it and say, how can I?
I just think that's where it's going to go. I really feel like that.
Well,
like everywhere else in healthcare, in other areas, it's made people's work more efficient. It's saved lives. So it will do that.
He gave a good example of that last night.
He did. And before we go into that good example, the idea for me to put that story in and create it in a chatbot came from a chatbot when I was working on my presentation on how to engage and worked with my conversation with AI for different examples of how it could be used. So it told me it could be used to create these types of stories. So that's crazy. And it didn't do it for me. It created, but it did it with me. Right. I said my audience, I said my parameters, I put it in there. I looked at sort of my goals, and we came up with it.
So it doesn't write the essay for you, it writes the essay with you. It doesn't do the report for you.
Correct.
It does it with you. That's what we teach the students. It's to help you, not for you.
It's your collaborative partner when you may not be right next door to them.
Just to flip it, and I'm sorry, but I took the same type of thing, and I took a writing of an essay that actually my students put in, and I put in my rubric, and I put in my evaluation criteria. I use brisk teaching, because it's just a little add-on that you can have in Google Docs. It's still going back to the same place. And I put my rubric, and I put my things in, and exactly what I was looking for in terms of evaluating here. Now, you might say, oh, you're having it evaluate for you? I'm like, I'm having it look at the writing with me. Because I'm going to be honest with you. When I'm grading a lot of papers, my feedback gets worse and worse and worse. And then I start looking at those canned comments that I already have, and I feel guilty. I feel really, really guilty, but I'm also been sitting there for 3-4 hours just looking at 30 student paper to give them appropriate feedback to go in. I put in the parameters. It gave me like 3 levels of feedback, where you shine, where you need development, and what you're wondering based on what they're writing. I didn't take it. I looked at it. I'm like, oh my gosh. It's picking out points. It's finding these things. It's making connections. And I agree with some of the things it's connected. And then I can copy and paste and add on that feedback. I've been doing it for the last few weeks with my college students, and they've appreciated the feedback.
And that feedback's making them better students.
Because
now they're looking at the comments that you put in and saying, okay, how do I need to address this in my next assignment? So it's only making students better.
I didn't hide it either. I modeled, like, I've needed a tool to improve my communication with you.
They're going to need that.
And I'm like, and this is what I did with your writing.
And you're also working with future educators to show them, hey, listen, this is how I'm handling it, or how I handle it with the resources available. It shows them, hey, learn to use the resources around you.
Yeah.
All right. We could go on and on about AI.
We probably will in about an hour when we do the next one.
Yeah, so we will be back and better than ever, as always. Thank you for listening on all of the platforms. Be sure to leave those 5-star reviews. We greatly appreciate your support. Till next time, work smart, live an adventure.
Find Andrew on all socials at Nicola Tech and Dan at WCSD Tech DR.